right, guys, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Extra Reverb podcast. I am super excited about this week's episode because we're breaking down something that's just really it's got my gears grinding a little bit. And I know a lot of other people, but the more I think about it, the more things kind of fall into place. And a lot of it doesn't seem to make sense. But when you get a full spectrum view of things, you start to grasp it, you have a better understanding of what could be going on. Obviously, we don't 100% know. It's easy to draw conclusions and look at clickbait headlines and just fall into place on what you're seeing other reputable sources saying. But what I want to do here is I want to break down what's going on with the Epstein files, Jeffrey Epstein, and basically give you where I've landed on what I believe is going on. And then maybe the information that we're breaking down here will help you to agree with me, or maybe it'll help you draw your own conclusion. And whatever it does, please, I am open to hear other people's thoughts on what's going on, because it's easy to say Trump's compromised. It's easy to say Israel's running the government. We know that already. But I think there's a bigger play here. And again, I am a 3-time Trump voter. I have full faith in what he's doing so far. But I trust him. Just because you trust someone doesn't mean you can't question, and it doesn't mean that you have to agree with everything that they do. And breaking down this information here, really going into the weeds on it, it's not so simple as I don't trust him anymore. Oh, he's compromised. Oh, he was on the list. Oh, we got to go with Elon's America Party. All this kind of stuff. So let's get into it here. I got a ton of notes, so bear with me. I want to just jump straight in, and I want to tell you what I'm thinking, see where this information led me. I want to give you the information as accurately as I can. And if I got something wrong, you think I've gotten something wrong, I'm open to hearing about it. But I want to give you everything, try to give you the most full spectrum view that I can so that you can draw your own conclusion on this. So let's start off. Let's just look from the beginning, the Jeffrey Epstein timeline here. Okay, starting in the early 1990s. Jeffrey Epstein purchases in the early 1990s his mansion in Palm Beach, Florida. And that later becomes his central location for his criminal activities. Okay, now in moving on to the mid 1990s, Ghislaine Maxwell, his associate, she starts recruiting young girls for him in Palm Beach County. Okay, one of which who was 15 working at Mar-a-Lago when she was recruited. Then we move on. This is going on for a long time, which means to a lot of people that there were some powerful people at play here who were keeping all of this safe because they were involved. Okay, so let's move on now from the 90s to 2005, the early 2000s. A 14-year-old girl's stepmother reports to this is in March of 2005, to Palm Beach police that her stepdaughter was molested by Epstein at his mansion. The girl alleges that she was paid $300 to strip and massage Epstein, who then masturbated during the encounter. Now, this prompts a police investigation and uncovers multiple underage victims who report similar experiences. The following year, 2006, May, the Palm Beach police charge Epstein with multiple counts of unlawful sex with a minor. And then state attorney Barry Kreischer refers the case to a grand jury, which, if you're not familiar, is a very unusual step in this process. So fast forward to June of 2006, the grand jury, hearing from only one accuser, indicts Epstein on a single count of solicitation of prostitution. They've ignored all the allegations from the other minor victims. Okay. And a lot of people, including the Palm Beach police, accused Kreischer of giving Epstein preferential treatment. You following me? Now, the next month, in July of 2006, the FBI now opens a federal investigation called Operation Leap Year into Epstein's activities. Okay, so now we're in 2007, and federal prosecutors, okay, who were led by U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta, prepare an indictment. But there are plea negotiations with Epstein's legal team while this is going on, including high-profile attorneys like Alan Dershowitz. And Epstein's lawyers start questioning the reliability of his accusers, right? Saying that, oh, they're making it up, they just want money, yada, yada, the usual. 2008 now. Epstein pleads guilty to two state charges. One count of solicitation of prostitution and one count of solicitation of prostitution from a minor. He is then sentenced to 18 months in jail with a work release program. So this allows him daytime office visits so he can continue to run his business. Very odd. The plea deal, which was secretly arranged with Acosta, this spares Epstein federal prosecution and received heavy criticism later on. Okay. So he didn't get federally prosecuted with his investigation. He just accepted the state charges, got to continue to run his business, and it's basically a slap on the wrist. Now let's go to 2009, July. Epstein is released from jail after serving 13 months. Okay, and he's required then to register as a sex offender in New York and report to police every 90 days. Okay, and he failed to comply with this on multiple occasions. Okay, and then over the next decade from 2009, there are victims, including Virginia, sorry for the pronunciation, Giuffre, who pursue legal action to void the non-prosecution agreement and hold Epstein and others accountable for what they did. Now, she alleges Epstein and Maxwell arranged sexual encounters with high-profile figures. This is in 2009, including Prince Andrew. All of these figures obviously deny the claims and obviously people believe them because of who they are. Oh, Prince Andrew, right? Is adding up yet? Let's fast forward. 2018, November. Reporter Julie Brown, she publishes a series that expose Acosta's role in Epstein's plea early on that we mentioned, the slap on the wrist, his plea deal, which kind of brings it back to public interest, and people start scrutinizing the case a little bit, going, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? This is 2018. So then a year later, 2019, July, Epstein gets arrested by the FBI, NYPD Crimes Against Children Task Force at the Teterboro Airport in New Jersey on federal sex trafficking charges. This is in 2019. Federal sex trafficking charges. That means they have evidence that he was sex trafficking children. Okay? They searched his Manhattan townhouse. They uncovered evidence. They had thousands of sexually suggestive photos of minors. There was cash, diamonds, fraudulent passport. And the prosecutors then alleged that Epstein had abused dozens of girls as young as 14 between the years 2002 and 2005. But again, we're going to get into, they say that there's none of this is happening now, right? A couple of days later, Epstein's formally charged with sex trafficking, and conspiracy to traffic minors for sex. And he pleads not guilty, which if he was convicted, he'd be facing up to 45 years in prison for this. So he pleads not guilty to this. And then July 18th, he's considered a flight risk and is denied bail. So then, July 25th, 2019, he's placed on suicide watch after being found unresponsive with neck injuries. Okay? Now, we're going to get into these injuries in a little bit. We're going to go more in depth on that. But then August 2019, August 10th, 2019, is when he is found dead in his cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City, one of the most secure places on the planet. And the examiner rules his death suicide by hanging. Now, there's a lot of conspiracy theories and other examiners who suggest that this was not a hanging, that it was a homicide. Okay? And then later, the Justice Department's Inspector General criticizes jail staff for negligence, but they still uphold the suicide ruling. What's up with that? Explain it to me. A couple weeks later, 2019, August 29th, the criminal charges against Epstein are dismissed because he's dead. So why, and we're going to ask this question a couple times, why, if you've pled not guilty to these crimes and they didn't happen, would you kill yourself? Totally adds up, right? So let's go now to 2020, July 2nd. Ghislaine Maxwell is charged with sex trafficking and related crimes to that for her role in recruiting and abusing underage girls for Epstein. So she's arrested because, do you get arrested without evidence for sex trafficking? Do they just say, you sex traffic and lock you up? No, there's evidence that she did it. That's why she's in prison. But now we're hearing to the contrary. 2021, December 30th, Maxwell is convicted on multiple charges, including sex trafficking and conspiracy. She's charged. Not only accused and arrested, because she's charged. There's enough there that she is charged. And is sentenced in June of 2022 to 20 years in prison, where she is currently serving her sentence in Tallahassee, to be released in July of 2037. Now we're into 2023, getting a little more recent. Okay, the Justice Department's Inspector General, they again released the report criticizing the negligence, misconduct, and job performance failures of the jail staff surrounding Epstein's incarceration. But they're still going to reaffirm that his death was a suicide. Of course, he killed himself because he wasn't guilty. That's what any sane, normal person would do, right? When they're not guilty of something, is they would kill themselves. Obviously, wouldn't you? I would, for sure. Now we're into 2024, last year, January. 4,500 plus pages of court documents from Virginia Jeffries, sorry again for the pronunciation, defamation lawsuit against Maxwell are unsealed, revealing even more details about Epstein's activities, but no new charges, of course, because he killed himself. Why bother? And we've already got Maxwell in prison for her crimes that apparently didn't happen either. So July of last year, Luis Delgado, the Florida circuit judge, releases the 2006 grand jury transcripts accompanied by video walkthroughs of Epstein's mansion, which highlight why he faced only a single prostitution charge initially. And then later, July of last year, okay, we get Elon Musk posting on X suggesting the client list should be acted on by the FBI, or there should be a department reset, right? And then later on, he goes on to tell Tucker Carlson that a Trump victory would lead to the list release. And experts like, again, Julie K. Brown, who we mentioned earlier, they are saying that this list doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Somehow she went from exposing this to it doesn't exist, which is where we are now, right? January of this year, during Kash Patel's Senate confirmation hearing, Senator Marsha Blackburn asks if he will expose Epstein's sex trafficking network, and he vows to ensure the public knows the full weight of the case. If he's confirmed, he's going to release everything. He said it on multiple podcasts. You're going to get those lists out there. It's all going to happen, right? And then in February, the now Attorney General, Pam Bondi, claims the client list is on her desk for review. It's on her desk. It's literally on my desk. Okay. And then we have the whole thing with phase one being released, and all the influencers get their picture at the White House with the binder. And it was a complete waste of time because it was stuff that was already released. It was redacted files, flight logs. So there was no new information. And people are saying Pam Bondi should resign, blah, blah. But look, at this point, even I'm saying we should trust her. We should let it unfold. Let's see what happens here. Okay. So back in May, Caroline Leavitt says there's no specific timeline for these releases. Even though Bondi said, we're going to get these out. They're on my desk. They're being reviewed. We're going to release them. We're going to release the list. It's on my desk. Okay. And then later in May of this year, the FBI says they're going to release surveillance footage from the night of Epstein's death so they can counter conspiracy theories. And then Dan Bongino states the video shows Epstein's alone, and him and Kash both support that he killed himself. After years of hearing Dan Bongino talk about how he has sources and knows that it wasn't a suicide, all of a sudden now, yep, definitely a suicide. So what's going on here? We start to wonder. What's going on here? Right? And then last month, here comes Elon. They get into this little feud with Trump, right? And he says Trump's in the Epstein files. He's got no evidence, but this definitely ignites some public interest again, right? And we're like, oh, wait, Trump's on the list. No wonder they don't want to put it out. Trump's on the list. But here's my take on that. If he was on the list, why would the Russia hoax people come, and why would they cart out Kamala Harris and all this kind of stuff and try to pull a script if they had Trump on the Epstein list? Nail in the coffin. You know that would have come out if he was actually on there. You know that would have been the ace in the hole. Why would they have to make up all this Russian collusion hoax and all this other kind of stuff, trying to keep Trump out of office? All these bogus felony charges that he was faced with, that he defeated. Why would they try all that if he was on the Epstein list? And they could put that out. Unless they're on the list too, right? Now, just the other day, which brings us now to the present, the Justice Department releases a memo that no client list exists. Oh, would you know it? There's no evidence to support blackmail claims, and no further charges are expected against third parties. So all of those videos, all that child pornography, that was just Epstein. All those hundreds of girls being abused, all these children being abused. There's no evidence of this. There's no client list that was on my desk. What are you talking about? Right? Also, the memo confirms that Epstein's death is a suicide. And then we get 10 hours of jail footage that show no one entered the cell. But you look at the footage and there's a minute gap, which is unexplained. So now it's an obvious cover-up, is it not? Is this not a cover-up? Because there's something bigger at play here. What is it? We're going to get into it. Then what's today? The 9th. Yesterday, Trump tells a reporter, get over Epstein questions in the cabinet meeting. Do you see that video? Bondi's answering a question and he interrupts and says, why are we still talking about Epstein? Why are we still talking about that creep when the stuff in Texas is going on? So he clearly wants this to be swept under the rug. Why? What's going on with this? Why don't we have more information about this? So let's look at it. Obviously, again, if I'm arrested on charges that I'm pleading guilty to, obviously my first move is to kill myself. And then my accomplice is arrested on sex trafficking charges, but those apparently didn't happen either. She just didn't traffic them to anyone. It didn't happen. She didn't traffic to anyone, but she's arrested and in jail till 2037 because she didn't traffic to anyone. Who was she trafficking to? Those people need to be brought to justice. Those people are the ones that we need to hear about. Who are they? And if we're not hearing about it and Trump doesn't want to talk about it and pursue it, they must be some pretty damned important people, in my opinion. Right? This is a cover up, 100%. Why? Let's get into it. Again, got several notes here, so let's shift gears. Someone I think there's a little bit of a bait and switch happening here. I think we're seeing the deep state being lulled into a false sense of security. Okay? And this outrage, what we're witnessing is consent being manufactured to get the full release of the files. Okay? It doesn't matter if you're left, right, moderate, blue pilled, red pilled, Q pilled. It doesn't matter. Everyone now wants the release and the transparency of the Epstein files because it's an obvious cover up at this point. You don't go from having the list on your desk to it doesn't exist. You don't charge someone for sex trafficking when they didn't traffic to anyone. It doesn't add up. And eventually, I think we will do what has to be done and this stuff will get released. Right? Now, let's go to Epstein killing himself, which totally makes sense. Right? The red flags here, I mean, broken neck bones, we got sleeping guards and malfunctioning cameras. Does that not scream cover up to you? If you don't think it's a cover up, you're insane. Right? And I think he was silenced, killed to protect these elite scum that are involved. Right? And I think that there's a lot of blackmail here that was being used, which again allegedly never happened. He never blackmailed anyone, which is why he killed himself, because he never blackmailed anyone of any importance, right? And then we've got with Ghislaine's dad the ties to Mossad in Israel, okay? And then you've got Ehud Barak's visits with her. It just smells like a honey trap operation, okay? She's getting honey potted so we can control politicians. That's what I'm seeing. The patterns do not lie here. And why wouldn't you want to prosecute child rapists? If there were hundreds of underage girls who were raped and we don't prosecute a single person, isn't that just nuts? It wasn't all Epstein. It was who they're being trafficked to. Who were they being trafficked to? What is this? And again, she's in prison for 20 years. Nothing to see here. Federal charges, intent to trafficking, transportation of minors with intent. Nothing to see here. No problem. Right? But then I start thinking about when I was digging into this, I'm looking at, well, Bill Clinton was definitely named as one of the people we knew was involved with this, right? And we know what happens to people when it's related to the Clintons and they're getting investigated, right? Just in case you didn't know, I made a list. Let's go through it, okay? Jeffrey Epstein, found dead in his prison cell as he awaited child trafficking connections to the Clintons, right? Placed on suicide watch, okay? Then we've got Victor Thorne, who was an author and a researcher who was very critical of the Clintons, found dead by gunshot wound, ruled suicide. Just as his latest book on the Clintons was gaining traction, okay? Now, Sean Lucas served the DNC with a lawsuit notice, found dead on the bathroom floor the next day. Following me? Joe Montano, DNC aide, died of a heart attack right after the WikiLeaks email dump. Seth Rich, DNC staffer, gunned down on the street. It was an attempted robbery, but nothing was taken. And he was an alleged WikiLeaks source, considerably. Enough. Okay, that's pretty suspicious, no? John Ash, former UN official, died when a barbell crushed his throat right before he was going to testify in a bribery case tied to who? The Clintons. Barbara Olson died in the 9/11 Pentagon crash. She was investigating Clinton scandals. Sandy Hume, journalist, ruled suicide. No one talked about that on the media, right? And what did she have a reputation for? She covered some very sensitive stories, some pertaining to the Clintons. Got a little too close to something, Sandy. Danny Casolaro. Is this list long enough for you? Is it long enough for you? An investigative journalist found wrist slit in a hotel bathtub. Warned his family, if he was found dead, not to believe the suicide story. Not being looked into. It's kind of odd, right? Dr. Ronald Rogers, plane crash on the way to reveal dirt he had on the Clintons. It was clear weather, just an unexplained crash. John Wilson, DC councilman, he hung himself. Allegedly, he had damaging information on the Clintons. Gandhi Bao and his law partner jumped out of a window, ruled suicide. And his partner suicided a month later. That's kind of odd. Paula Grober, Clinton's interpreter, died in a solo car accident. There was no reported cause ever of that. Dr. Stanley Hurd and Steve Dixon died in a plane crash. Okay, he was the Clintons' chiropractor and one of their advisors. That's weird, isn't it? Mary Mahoney, former White House intern, shot 5 times in a Starbucks with 2 coworkers. No money taken, execution style. Why? Isn't that suspicious? The list is still going. We're going to go through all of them just so you get the full spectrum of this, and it gets insane. It's insanity if the list wasn't long enough for you of these people close to the Clintons that got a little too close, got onto something. Suzanne Coleman, an alleged Clinton affair, ruled suicide by gunshot to the back of the head when she was pregnant. There was never an autopsy. Judy Gibbs, linked to Clinton, died in a fire of undetermined origin after she agreed to cooperate with the police. A little too close to the Clintons. Kathy Ferguson, ex-wife of trooper tied to Clinton, shot in the head. Forensics, don't support suicide, had packed suitcases and was planning to leave. Where was he going? Where was she going? Bill Shelton, police officer, who was Ferguson's boyfriend, was also shot in the head behind the ear. It was labeled suicide, but it was an execution-style wound. James McDougall, a Whitewater witness, died of a heart attack in prison after receiving a diuretic which contraindicated for heart disease. Very interesting. How do you get that? Why? Vince Foster, White House aide, died by gunshot, ruled suicide. And the suicide note that he left was ruled a forgery, but never looked into further. John Walker, RTC investigator, fell to death while investigating Whitewater ties. How about that? Johnny Lawhorn Jr., car crash after finding Whitewater records. The crash had odd circumstances, apparently. Is this list long enough? We're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. Okay. Betty Curry's sister killed in a car accident with a month of Curry testifying before a grand jury. Ronald Miller, sudden mysterious illness, refused to release blood test results. Ricin poisoning suspected. Oh, that's dirty right there. Ed Wiley died by self-inflicted gunshot. He was left-handed, but shot with his right hand. Same day his wife allegedly was assaulted by Bill Clinton, allegedly. Barbara Wise, the Commerce Department head, found dead, naked, and bruised, locked in her office. It's odd. Jerry Parks, security firm owner, shot assassination style. He had Clinton files that vanished after his death. Why aren't we looking into this? Do we think they might have had something to do with Epstein getting killed? Seems like they got the connections, am I not? Victor Reiser II and Herschel Friday, campaign finance officials, both died in plane crashes under clear and benign conditions. Ron Brown, Commerce Secretary, plane crash, criminal investigation pending. Said he'd cut a deal. Possible navigation beacons tampered. Airport staff died by suicide after. That's weird. Shelley Kelly survived crash, died of a broken neck en route to the hospital. This goes so deep, man. We're almost done. Stanley Huggins, Madison SNL investigator, dead from viral pneumonia. The report was never released. Paul Wiltshire, attorney, investigated, found dead. Cause not reported. How about that? Barry Seal, Maine drug pilot, assassinated in Baton Rouge. Florence Martin, accountant linked to Seal's money, 3 gunshot wounds to the head. Kevin Ives and Don Henry, teens, run over by a train. It was first ruled suicide, later found murdered. Okay, they were also linked to the Maine smuggling. Others, with the knowledge of the Ives Henry deaths, Keith Coney died in a motorcycle crash. Keith McCaskill was stabbed. Gregory Collins, shotgun blast. Jeff Rhodes, shot, body burned and mutilated. Richard Winters, shotgun. Jordan Kettleson, shotgun blast. Why isn't this being looked into? Why is no one raising an eyebrow with this? Multiple Clinton bodyguards, Secret Service military officials, killed in helicopter crashes or execution style, all soon after being assigned to or working closely with the Clintons. Last one, Luther Parks, head of Clinton security, was gunned down. The dossier on Clinton was stolen. It's just so odd. How about that? Okay. So we've got all that list of people. What was that? 10 minutes of people that were getting too close to the Clintons or were close to the Clintons and turned up dead. Shot, crazy circumstances, plane crashes. I don't think it's a coincidence, including Jeffrey Epstein. Okay? Now, let's backpedal here and let's look. They say that no evidence exists other than the hours of child pornography and we don't want to talk to the victims because we don't want to re-victimize them. And the list doesn't exist that was on the desk. Let's examine the evidence list. Okay? Now, no matter what you believe about Epstein's past or fate, okay, there are conclusions that can be logically drawn here from the material that was seized. Okay? This was not a small or isolated operation. There were dozens of devices, thousands of photos, labeled photo albums, surveillance tapes, blueprints, foreign passports, fake passports. This wasn't just one person that had a dark secret because he liked kids. Okay? There was infrastructure, logistics, coordination. This was a system devised over decades. And that's why these people were put in prison. That's why one is dead, most likely killed, and the other is in prison. But she trafficked to no one. Don't worry. Is this making sense yet? Is this enough information? Okay. Don't worry. I'm going to get to where I landed on this, but let's keep going. There's a huge digital footprint, hundreds of hard drives, USB, CDs, backup servers, and some of them label with things like nude girl pics, book 4. There are travel logs. We've seen some employee directories, videotapes. Why hasn't it been fully disclosed to the public? Why can't we see these things? I understand I wanted to see the child pornography. Nobody wants to see that. It's awful. It's demonic. But what about the rest? Why can't we see names? Why can't we see labels? Why can't we see these things? And intelligence agencies, their involvement, it's not a stretch here. Okay? We have an Austrian passport with Epstein's face. Honey trap style setups. Again, international mobility, getting all over the place, no problem. Too much precision, too much reach, too many decades going undetected for me. It just stinks. Okay? It's not wild theory when you have this stuff. It's the only logical hypothesis, people. Okay? The system's silence on this, it's evidence enough. If anyone else, anyone, you, I, anyone you know, had even 1/10 of this material, the underage photos, coded file names, flight logs, we would be in prison. They would be in prison. Now, nothing. No prosecutions, no answers. That's the scandal here to me. Who are these people? We deserve to know, right? And now, what I think is that what this does is it puts our institutions on trial. Okay, it's bigger than Epstein. It's media complicity. It's power being protected and truth being buried. Obviously. And until it's fully revealed, I think every elite institution, mainstream media, it just has a stench they can't rid themselves of. They can't wash it off. It's disgusting until we know. Right? And if you're out there and you're going, it's just a conspiracy, if you're sitting there and you're a boomer watching the news, you go, it's just a conspiracy, you no longer believe in accountability. That's my opinion. You no longer believe in anyone being held accountable for this disgusting, demonic shit. And we need to demand answers. And every day we fail to, we just normalize the immunity of the elites. We need to demand answers on this. It's not over. It's not over. But this is public trust. This is their Rosetta Stone of public trust. And getting this stuff out there is how you gain that trust back. And as long as they sit on it, the trust will continue to deteriorate. What's left of it? There's not much. Right? Now, what I want to get into here is where I've landed. Again, I wrote this down because it's a lot to take in. This is what I think. This is just, again, you can have your own opinions on it, but what I think is happening here. Okay. What they said was, with the minute of tape missing, if I knew a federal prisons system, surveillance system did this, they say every night there's a 1 minute blind spot at midnight. That's all I would need to go in there and get rid of this high value asset that is Jeffrey Epstein. Okay. But then we ask ourselves, why fake suicide? Why Jeffrey Epstein? And the other question, why let him die under Trump's DOJ? I don't think we can just stop pretending. I don't think anybody believes that Epstein was just some rogue billionaire sex trafficker. I think that's out the window. I think that we know that there was more involvement here, foreign governments, intelligence agencies, what have you. Okay. I think he was a deep cover intelligence asset and he was running elite blackmail operations, honey traps, and I think it was for Mossad. That's what I think. It was a global trap house for the ruling class. Okay. So then who ran who? I think Epstein was the blackmail broker, sexual predator, power laundering middleman, um, with the suspected ties to Mossad. It was Ghislaine's father. Okay. Robert Maxwell. He was long suspected of being an Israel asset. So there's your tie right there to that. And then his daughter, okay, the recruiter, the groomer, the handler, allegedly not. Apparently, she didn't do it to anyone, right? There's your tie to foreign intelligence. She's still in prison, still alive. She's never flipped, okay, and no names have been revealed, okay? So, who talked and who didn't is the next question we need to ask. She's still in custody. Epstein is dead. You need to draw your own conclusions on that. Epstein's dead. She's still in custody. Who talked? Now, is it legally possible for the DOJ to fake a death? Yes. It's rare, classified, but it's absolutely possible, right? That Epstein's still alive. Is he still alive? Okay. And legally grounded under prosecutorial discretion, doctrine of necessity, compelling government interest, national security mandates. Okay. And these operations, they would be authorized at the AG or deputy AG level. They'd be coordinated with US Marshals, the FBI, and or the CIA, and they would be sealed under lifetime classification if he is dead, if they faked his death. And there's no FOIA request that could potentially save you, could possibly save you. So, my theory here, why would Trump's DOJ fake Epstein's death? I don't think it's out of the question. It's kind of where I'm landing. Because one, you weaponize the blackmail, you don't burn it. This is decades of blackmail. Okay. If you take the deep state's most powerful blackmail tool, you don't light it on fire by putting it in court and having it all revealed. You aim it back at the people who built it. Epstein Island was a honeypot fortress hidden cameras, controlled flights, pre-selected victims, pre-compromised guests. Faking his death allows Trump's DOJ to extract intel from Epstein, flip him into a ghost asset, and then they can wield blackmail as leverage over politicians, media moguls, and other foreign agents, foreign entities that were involved in this, right? So in effect, you're hijacking the deep state's nuke and you're turning it around and pointing it right at them. You see? Yeah, it kind of adds up, doesn't it? Right? And then also, you're avoiding global chaos. You can use this to avoid global chaos, and you control the world stage. This is what we need to have happen, right? His blackmail, if we're right, it could collapse governments, dismantle the markets. You following me? This could ignite international crisis by who's involved. So instead of having public trials, we use the blackmail privately, right? We use it privately. We subdue hostile foreign elements. We broker backdoor peace and realignment without having the public panic on all of these compromised people, all of these disgusting bastards that are in power. Instead, we can control them because we have their weapon. We can leverage deals and nuclear fears. We can end endless wars and human trafficking for good with this leverage. So why wouldn't we want to fake his death and keep him alive and get all this blackmail? These are all amazing things. Okay? We can have order over the chaos. We can leverage overexposure. We seize the narrative and we silence the enemy. Okay? A public trial would just become a deep state circus, right? Absolutely. So now instead we have mainstream media manipulation, strategic leaks, foreign intel interference, and it's a perfect environment, right? By faking his death, we control the operation, we shield the investigation, and we deny the enemy the stage. We're in control. You see what I'm getting at here? And then you time it's just like a tactical strike. You time the truth, right? Trials, they're static. That happen, right? It's slow. It can last years, and you don't have any control over when stuff comes out. Now, a controlled leak or a timed reveal, right? It could be nuclear for the deep state. Okay, so now Trump's team they could drop partial truce at peak election moments. They could hold the full release as a kill shot when public faith in the system fully collapses. Boom, we gotcha. It's over. Right? So instead of using the truth that we have as a show, we weaponize it and we have ourselves a sword that we can wield, that we can use to manipulate and get the things we need to happen. Right? I think Ghislaine Maxwell is the dead giveaway. Okay? If she had flipped, she'd be gone under sealed deal. She'd be gone. And but she's still locked up and not a single elite name has been released. Why? Because Epstein's alive. He talked. He flipped. Okay? And Trump's Department of Justice already had it all. They have it all. And they're using it as leverage to get what they want, to broker these peace deals, to have happen what they want to have happen. So I go back to, we can have differences of opinion. It's a cop out to say that he's compromised. This is trusting the plan. And I trust the plan. That's where I land on this. I think it's strategic silence, legal authority, and information dominance over the world. And if he's not alive, say Epstein's, okay, if he's not alive, what was done with what he did give them before he died? And why yesterday, July 8th, is he back in the headlines? We've seen it before. July 8th and Epstein connected for years. I mentioned it in the timeline. You see the connection? Q. Okay. This so-called fake military operation. But somehow keeps getting it right. Right on cue, doesn't it? It's pretty clear to me that he flipped. He's being protected. He's alive. And he's one of the greatest assets that we have at this point to control what we need to control, to have happen what we need to have happen. That's my opinion on it. That's where I've landed on this. So, based on all of the information that we've presented here, do you think it's possible? Because that's what I think. We've broken it down here. And it's pretty obvious that this reeks and there's cover up happening. And it's getting harder for this cover up to continue. But we have to trust the plan. We have to trust our leader. And I think that if we have faith, it's going to get so much more accomplished than just putting the information out there. Ultimately, we want the information ultimately, but I think we need to use it while we can. And that's why it's not being acted on right now. But I think in time that it will be acted on when the time is right. So that's all I've got. Tell me what you think. Put it in the comments. Call me an idiot. Call me a conspiracy theorist, or agree with me. Don't agree with me. I just wanted to give you the information again so that you could make the decision for yourself, so you could cut through the BS. That's why we're here. And I really appreciate you sticking with me to the end. I hope this helped. Just wanted to shed some light on it. Going to be back again. Got some amazing guests coming up. Got some amazing content that I want to get out there. I want to thank AME Media for putting this all together. Thank you for listening. It makes all this possible. The Extra Rvrb shop is live. All of our proceeds, when you purchase merchandise, go to help various veteran charities to help those in need, because they make the greatest sacrifice to giving us the opportunity to be here and talk about this and to openly discuss it without fear. And that is the gift that is the United States of America, the greatest country on earth. I love you. Thank you again. This is Aaron May with the Extra Rvrb podcast. I'm out of here. Peace.